Well, everybody knows the Zimbabwean voice now, that's for sure. And it's a beautiful voice, that one. One of unity, one of togetherness, one of peace, one of love, you know. That's the way forward. Oga, Oga.
From the African Highway Podcast Network, I'm Dumi Mabena, and this is Zimbabwean Voices, the podcast where we interview Zimbabweans from all walks of life that are using their platforms to shift the Zimbabwean narrative for the better. In this episode, I had the luxury of interviewing my friend Kuda Mangwe, who is a broadcaster and the current host of a show called Face the Nation, which is on ZBC. And on that show, they get politicians to discuss the implementation of their public policy. The reason why I thought it would be great to have a conversation with him was to get a sense of what it means to be a young person using their voice to make a difference. Enjoy. I think on that exact point, I think for me, I think what often happens is that when, and now I'm kind of alluding into like the whole thing, but essentially if you touch on something that kind of speaks to the thing, what often happens is that when there is no purpose behind, of course, I don't know, like one's life or like the reason why we do things, sometimes you can almost create frustration for yourself and create a frustration for the person that you're with, right? And you begin to work and you earn money goes up, money goes down, and you know, and then you're going to feel yourself, okay, so what is the reason why we're doing all of these things? I think for me over the past years, like I was applying to school and I had the privilege of actually having a year to pause, reflect, think, to be like, why do I even do real estate? Why have I even got into startups as an idea? What was the reason I did a business degree? Like there has to be a thread that is kind of running across all of these things that I've kind of thrown myself at, right? And I think for the most part, at least, there's been a bit of like angst where you want to, of course, for me, I think the thing has been like, how can we contribute to the Zimbabwe narrative? Because if you look at the time of Zimbabwe's history where we were born, it was in constant flux, families being broken apart, people moving up and down, the economy is crashing. And me being in and out of the country meant that like I was always sort of trying to clutch on some sort of positive identity in the midst of negativity.
Of all the chaos,
Of all the chaos. I'm thinking, then you move abroad and you can say, okay, well, I'm not South African. I've lived in South Africa for a third of my life. I'm not South African. You go to the UK, like, well, I'm definitely not Scottish or British. But if I look at what I am, the thing that I am is completely, there's a warped, nuanced negative narrative. And I'm like, geez, so are we saying no matter where I go, I'll never be embraced by the country that I live in? But then the country that I come from, is one where the story that is told is perpetually negative. At least America have Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Zimbabwe, what's the story that supersedes the place that you come from? They can embrace. So I think the thing for me was like, okay, the reason why I've done all of the jobs that I've done, and it's always been some like attempt or clutching at being a person that is able to help shift a positive Zimbabwe narrative. It speaks to entrepreneurship, development in real estate, business. These are all industries that you can help move a needle for a particular community. And so I think this year it was like, okay, so what can we do that's more purposeful than just earning a salary? Conversations are important. Stories are very important. At the very least, they can inspire a person that's listening to say, oh, I've heard Mangwe's story. I've heard teenager Karasi's story. She's helping women with endometriosis. I want to support what she's doing. It doesn't change the economy, but it helps change someone's, health or school fees. You know what I mean? So that was the idea. The idea was like, how can we have conversations around people who are doing stuff that's impactful and how we can try and have conversations about shifting the narrative, if you will. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know? I understand what you're saying, and I absolutely love it. And I'll be honest. I think I watched a video that you sent me when you're asking me for like 10 seconds, and then the audio for like another 20 seconds. I finished them, but I'm saying within that time already, I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do it, because I believe in what you're doing, and I think that's one of your biggest challenges, particularly with the people you have most access to interview, is getting over this one hurdle. There's historical evidence that supports this being okay, but there's also a present necessity for it not to be okay.
Yes.
which is that a lot of people find it difficult to find something positive about Zimbabwe.
Say more. Say more
If
on that point.
if if you say Zimbabwe it'll fire, you are part of the problem. Either you are in someone's pocket or you're affiliated in a certain way or this, that, and the third. How are you possibly able to say you're finding something good about your country? How is it possible that you're able to say that you're optimistic about the way your country is going? Optimism is not allowed in Zimbabwe. Hope is where you go to die in Zimbabwe. So when you say stuff statistically, which I constantly repeat, not and when I repeat these stats at work, no one believes I am doing it because I believe. People think I'm doing it because I was asked to do it. Zim's COVID response is in the top 10 in the world and the top one on the continent.
Statistically
But you
speaking,
don't want,
numbers.
statistically speaking,
Right.
numbers, right? Vaccines deployed, cases managed in context of your problem, right? Number one, Africa, seven in the world.
Yeah.
You can't, you don't
That's
feel
exceptional.
comfortable
That's
saying
exceptional.
that. That's freaking mad, dude. That is insane. That is insane, right? That is insane. That is insane. But you don't feel comfortable saying that because there has to be some. There has to be this. What's the flip side? Who ndiyana kanjika mari? Hey, this. Hey, watch. This. But then you look at Hunter Biden scandal, Ivanka Trump scandal, scandal. But what? Because you still see those scandals on Netflix, they're much more palatable. And because you can experience 15 billion missing in the country and it actually affects your ability to go to school, you think there's a difference. There's nowhere in the world where there isn't corruption. There's nowhere in the world where there isn't problems. But these are yours, fam.
Yeah.
Right? These are yours. Now, one of the challenges that we have, this section of society, is that number one, the schools you go to, St. John's, Michael House, Peter House, Falcon, George's,
Whatever.
they don't train you. They don't train you to be Zimbabwean. Why do you learn about Bismarck, Van Onto, chocolate? When you get into upper six and someone says, where are you going to university? Let that one say, use it. And it's like, what's panic? Are you failing? Oh, you're in. Oh, snap. Are you okay, bro? Oh, bro. Are you okay, bro? Right? Because what's the answer? South. UK, bro. Aussie, mate. I'm going stateside, bro. Yeah, this. That's what sex. Even there's this huge influx of kids going to the Netherlands. What? What does that even mean? Right? So you guys, you privileged peeps, don't even talk about them. You don't want to be here. Right? You weren't educated to be here. Your outlook isn't even here. And even when you now look at the society, the background of the people who actually make decisions that affect our country, none of them come from places where we go. What school does the president go to, or the future presidents? What school do they go to? Your ministers, your ministers have kids who we went to school with. They don't even want to be here. They're in the States, they're in Australia, they're in South Africa, making their lives better for those places. They don't want to be here. So what does your privilege help if it doesn't even keep you in your country?
Where does the you mentioned some things about ministers who might have not gone to privileged schools, like institutions growing up, but then they have children who they then batch out as well. So there's the privileged side of society, Zimbabwean society, who have this issue, but then also people that come from maybe not so much privilege become privileged and then fall into the same funnel. Where does the internalized self-hate come from? Because it's an element of self-hate to a degree, right? It might not be, but I hear what I'm trying to say. Like, there's something about ourselves that makes it that we aren't comfortable celebrating the best parts of our own nature are. Like you mentioned, the COVID response. That's a phenomenal thing, but to internalize it as a success for ourselves is something that we struggle with.
Yeah,
that's self-hate, in my opinion. But would you know where that comes from, or do we have to do soul searching for it?
In my opinion, like I mentioned, being able to see good in this country has traditionally, now I'm talking about our generation, I'm sure my dad probably has a different response to this, but
Yes.
has now come with connotations of being part of the problem, because success, when I go speak to young people
Mm.
at different career guidance stages, university planning, this, that, and the third. One of the questions I actually get a lot, and I don't know how to answer, I'll be honest, is,
Mm.
Mr. Mangwe, can you tell us one person who's been successful without shadiness? I'm not going to say strive because everyone says strive. And then I start to think to myself, and
Wow, is that the only beacon of hope that I have as the
right? Like, are we really? Like, are we still? What? Come on, man! And
that's
and
one
so
person, right?
yeah, and so the way it is that people who have that self hate, as we're calling it, if you're in your pure section, it's because you've been exposed to systems where, even though corruption can exist, it's not at the expense of the livelihood of everyone. So your exposure informs you that something is still not right, even though you can tout the odd success here and there. Because yeah, cool, we're number one in COVID response in Africa, number seven in the world, blah blah. But where's my mortgage? You know,
Yes,
where's my career path?
correct.
Where's my this?
Yeah.
Where's my that?
Mm.
Okay. And then if for people from other places, other different backgrounds, it's just like, constantly in the midst of, life's not fair,
Mm.
disadvantaged, and this, that, and the third.
Mm.
But do you know that it is a global phenomenon? Not phenomenon, but it's a global understanding, a global recognition that millennials are fast becoming known as the mistreated generation, or
Sure.
the generation that had their legacy stolen.
Mm.
You watch documentaries about millennials' outlook on life from America, from England, from different parts of Europe, Canada, Australia. We all sound the same, fam.
Hmm.
We all sound the same,
Big blended mixture
right?
of people, but yeah, yeah.
all
Mm.
we all sound the same. It's just that we can't readily from Zimbabwe think that it's the same, because we're having someone who's complaining about their situation through the lens of an iPhone 12 Pro Max. And you're like, yo, ha, but I need iPhone, so you must be cool, right? And what it is, though,
Yeah.
is now why we shouldn't look to that. This is now the difference, right?
Yes.
The first world has already, for the most part, realized its potential. They're now in a place where they are managing that potential and trying to squeeze in this, that, and the third. But they already have a natural curiosity to be able to strive and become better, because they have lived in a society where they've seen that working for them. We haven't. So a lot of the times we're still trying to force
Mm.
our own success the way we want to see it. There are how many billionaires in Africa?
I'm not sure. I'm not
Two.
sure. Dangote,
One
Aliko
of them,
Dangote, and Strive and Silver.
yeah,
Is it just
exactly.
two?
Just
Oh,
two. One of them is in tech, right? What kind of tech? He's not building Apple iPhones and whatever. No, 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 no.
telecoms.
Star 220 hash, right?
Telecoms. Yeah.
And the other one is in cement, sugar, and logistics.
Correct.
Your
Yeah.
continent has a predetermined need. We don't need Starbucks. We need infrastructure.
Mm.
The success of our generation is going to come from breaking, as in now of the privileged part of our generation, is in breaking whatever idea you thought was going to be successful. Utengese sipo, like Dumi did, right? Ushande cement.
Mm.
Not trying to, we're not yet at a stage where we need, you know, smart hub, chakuti, chakuti, chi, 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 chi. The money is in the problems, and our problems are very visible. But peeps want to force whatever they want, because I'm a digital marketing strategist,
Yeah.
right, by
Yeah.
profession.
Yeah.
And when I get into meetings with different, companies, big companies here in Zimbabwe, and I start talking data and all this other stuff, all they're just looking at me like,
You're talking
that
about
sounds
SEO.
impressive, man. But and you get so frustrated and you're so upset. But then you have to step back and say, but that's where we're at.
Mm.
And that's what we require right now.
Sure.
So, as a Zimbabwean, are you connected? And I say that word intentionally. Are you connected to the needs of your country? Or are you
Sure.
still lost in this place of call me when we now need
SEO
a
strategy
railway system?
or
No, 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 not even that. No, a functioning railway system because you lived in Melbourne and you had a Mikey, right? And you went to the Queen Victoria station and you put your card on a thing, put in money, it loaded up your card, and you caught the train. And then after the train, you caught a tram to Queen Victoria station. Then you walked to work. Call me when Zimmer. It's not there, fam.
Mm.
May never be. Right? We might have the most efficient electric car combi system because it was scheduled.
Yeah.
But you are wishing and hoping to have this. Are
So
you
yeah.
connected
Mm.
to what we need right now?
Yes. So here's a question that I have then. So that's I think, and that you're all valid points. So here's a question that I have for you right now is to say, some of us are, and I can't help but speak from, the point of what, and I had we hate the word privilege, if you will, because no life has a singular narrative, right? But I speak to you here from life from Johannesburg, because I live here now, right? But a lot of Zimbabweans live everywhere and throughout the world, right? So what role do Zimbabweans, young and old, from a point of, I guess, access to to Wi-Fi, constant electricity, things like that, what role do we have in terms of being connected? Do you know what I'm trying to say? How can we tangibly, and I know I have my ideas, but what in your opinion, like, what role do we have to play in terms of helping shift things from a point of being remote? Do you know what I'm saying? Is it through capital? Is it through relationships? From this vantage point, what can we contribute to the Zimbabwe narrative in a positive way?
You got to do the work.
What is the work?
Zimbabwe through its political system has created in itself a welfare state where when I'm doing my job. Okay, so let's just say when I say my job, I'm talking Face the Nation. So
Yes.
I'm gonna keep saying my
Can we
job.
touch
Right?
on that? Sure.
Cool. When I'm doing my job, a lot of the times, one of the questions I have learned to now constantly keep asking is, Honorable Minister, can you please explain the boundaries in which where government's role starts and ends and where the citizens' role starts and ends? There's a massive, massive, massive problem that we have in this country where everyone, for the most part, believes that it's the government's responsibility to start your business, find your marketplace, improve this, improve that, and then you can sit back and relax. One of the worst things that we have in our country has been to be able to typically pinpoint with 100% accuracy where our problems come from. Because when you do that, then you have a credible scapegoat.
Point
You
and
know,
say,
whatever.
oh, you see, there.
There we go. My business, man, you know what? I was just about to build like the dopest app and then COVID, bro.
In COVID, yeah.
Can anyone deny that? No. Can
Yeah.
I really say but COVID, right? It happened, right? Okay. So in Zimbabwe we don't do the work. We have the raps, and we don't do the work. So I'll give you a story that I really love, in which and I'm sure you're gonna have one of them on at some point. But the boys from Envision Studios,
Sure.
right? They're with Captain Momo Fombi. Okay. One of the issues we have in arts and in the arts and media place is that the people, the demographic, the psyche of person who would want to have a life in media, would have to have a career making movies and
Yes.
diverse kinds of movies, right, are not connected to the country enough to make stories that would be popular here.
Yeah.
So Captain Mofombi is such an amazing addition to pop culture in Zimbabwe because it's like I want to make a superhero movie, but you can't make Tony Stark, fam, right? You can't write Captain Rogers, right? You can't write Thor and Doctor Strange and Batman and the Flash. You can't write those stories here. No,
It's foreign. It's foreign,
it's fun. So you
literally.
need more foamy, right? But now you can sit back and say, man, you know what? If only we had superhero stories that mattered for Zimbos, and they are doing it.
Yes.
Translate that more foamy example into different businesses that you want, right? And I know you're going to be talking to these people. When they do the work, right? Find the business, open the markets, create new things, this, that, and the third. You think just because you've got a food truck and you saw that working in California when you were there, that is going to work over here. What are the connotations of eating food out of a car in this country? So don't be so offended when your idea doesn't pick up. Where are you? Where's your market? Right? But do the work. Do the work, and then you can have a credible position to start telling people to be better. Right? Because so long as we have, when we say "Danane mad in Zimbabwe," and the names you keep bringing up are people who cheated the system or do this, that, and the third, you're only continuing the narrative that success is only for those who are willing to get to that snapping point
Yes.
and go to that next place, right? But if you can do the work and get the success, right, then it's awesome. Then the second thing is to be able to help people understand that success is relative. Because a
Yes.
lot of the times, true success requires a Range Rover, requires a Bentley, requires a Benz, requires a house, which if you scream, someone might not hear you. Now, so long as that is the idea of success, then people who are living in middle income lifestyles, got their simple house in a nice neighborhood, Marlborough Rain, Madokero is coming up hot fast because of investment from overseas.
Yes.
Why is that not success? If you are able to put food on your table on a regular basis, take your kids to school, doesn't matter what school that is, take your kids to school. Why is that not successful? Why do we not talk about that enough? And a lot of us, that is the life that we're going to lead. We're not. Oh, there's a finite number of space. There's a finite number of space in the Winsdale, fam. There's only so many in Borrowdale. You can't really build new. You have to buy someone who doesn't want to stay in their house in Borrowdale. So if you're still trying to think of this Dale analogy as being success, you're not going to be successful according to what we tell ourselves.
Right.
So one, we've got to do the work so that we can be the example, right? And then number two, we have got to change the narrative of what success is in this country. Because as so long as we keep on touting it to be a certain, this certain imaginary place where everyone thinks you're supposed to deserve to get to. There's many people who are doing well in this country who don't tell themselves that, or who are not seen as that, simply because we're all waiting for them to hop into a Bentley.
Right.
Putting fuel in your car is success, my guy. Success. Do your thing, man. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that's really illuminating. I know for you in particular, you wear many different hats, right? But one of the hats that you're wearing right now is being the host of Face the Nation. You got into broadcasting, I'd say, 2, 3, 4 years ago. What has that experience been like for you? Specifically because you have the ear of the people, or the eyes and ears of the people, right? Occupying that seat in that space, has there been an intentional output you're trying to get from that towards shifting a narrative forward? Or, I know, maybe I'll pause there and ask you from there what that has been like, and is there an intentional output you're hoping to achieve from that particular experience?
First of all, I just want to say thank you, man, because from my start in broadcasting, I often have to ask the questions. I never get asked questions. So the fact that I don't even ask the question even blows my mind. So thank you.
Are you like, whoa, no one ever asked you this question?
Oh, stop. I didn't ask that. Okay, cool. Okay, so you asked two things. You said, how did I get into broadcasting? And then, what am I doing with that responsibility to change the narrative?
Exactly.
So I actually studied. film and TV. My degree is actually a
Really?
double major in film and TV and public relations from Curtin in Perth, right?
Uh,
But when I was in Australia, I was like, am I going to be able to work in the ABC, Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or
so was
any
that the goal at the
different
time?
network?
So that was
Yeah.
the goal at the time to say, I want to work in
No, no,
Australia.
no, no. No, no, no. I was passionate about it, and I didn't want to learn in a market that I lived in. So I wasn't going to be prepared to go to school in Zim or school in South because I was like, I want the pshum pshum, the pshum pshum, right? So
What does that
I
mean?
got
What does that
the
mean?
lights,
The
the
lights,
places
my
where
lights.
the
Yeah,
technology, the
yeah,
storytelling is at a
yes,
level where I'm actually enthused, right? So I
sure.
went to go study in a market like that. But then I realized when the practical side of things came in was like, am I actually going to be employed and eat if I stay in this? I'm Zimbabwean. I'm not from here. Fam, let's be serious. So then
Sure.
I got a double major in PR, and then I just worked in marketing my whole life. So I only then started actually getting into this broadcasting role 3 years ago when late great friend Zororo Makamba
May he rest in peace.
handed over his
Mm,
show POV because he was moving on to bigger, better things. To
mm,
me, he actually literally was a conversation where he was like, "Ngui, I think that you'd be dope to take over the show because I'm leaving it." And I'm like, "Bro, why are you leaving it?" And he's like, I want to do something different. I want to grow the network, 11 dogs, make it bigger, better. But I can't do that if I'm in this position. So I want to move, go do something else. But I need, the show can't die. So I need a worthy person to jump in. And I was like, hey, man, if you think that's me, cool.
Tell me
Went
something
to,
at this point, before I let you go further. So you go
yeah,
into university with this as a particular avenue that you want to be in. Did you want to
yeah.
be in it from the lens of the person, from the lens of the broadcaster, if I can put it that way? Or and what even inspired that? Were you like at high school saying, I want to be in this space? Was it from
Yeah.
like an African perspective or just from a desire to tell stories and you know you have
Purely
any thought?
a desire to tell stories. Purely the desire to tell stories. You can even ask my wife when we watch movies.
Mm,
Yeah, we don't. I don't watch them like everyone watches them. I'm asking. First thing I always ask is, what's the budget? Why
uh,
that? Why that scene? Why that shot? Why this? And I've been watching movies like that since I was a kid, with the curiosity of how the hell do you put this all together? Like
right,
seriously, like someone is
right,
getting paid hundreds of millions for what we seemingly think is easy, but it's actually not,
a
right?
lot of work, right.
And my role on the film set, right, is writer editor. So the
You like
writer is
the
the one
writing
who
component. You love the writing component of it.
that's what's up. That's what's up. So the
Sure.
writer starts off the thing, and the editor makes sure that it's pieced together properly. So it's a
Mm,
natural marriage on the set.
mm, mm,
So I was like, anyone who does media with a real passion in this country knows that this market will break your heart. So I went and I did it because I also wanted to be doing it, but not in a place where if I walk into a bar and my friends, lawyer, accountant, yeah, man, I'm an editor on a film set. I'm that out, I'm mad. Took thing it drink yeah, him there because you broke. So obviously, you say that in different markets, there's a lot more respect. So that's why I wanted to do it. I really love telling stories, putting things together, and the whole idea of filmmaking, shows, that type of thing. Just always loved it.
mm.
Always loved
Okay.
it.
Um, yeah. Okay. So I'll come back to how you got into PFV, but you touched a point to say being a broadcaster in this market will break your heart. I, there's a documentary, if you will, called Blind Ambition, which is about four Zimbabwean sommeliers that go to if I can call like the World Cup or in that international
Yo,
competition
wow, wow.
for wine, exactly, literally for wine tasting. And I remember it's like, I was like, this is phenomenal Zimbabwean story. Let me jump on it. I go and try and, buy a ticket at whatever, I think Sundance Film Festival. You buy a ticket, you can watch it online. And then I paid like what, $30 or whatever, and they say you can't, you cannot view this from the location that you're in. And then I remember thinking like, geez, here's a Zimbabwean story about Zimbabwean people being told by Australians and Americans, what have you, being sold in America. And now me as Zimbabwean wants to contribute to this narrative, but I also wants to pay money to help, support and watch this thing, and I can't watch it. So you mentioned that being in the filming industry in this country will ruin your heart. Is it a case of how we haven't maybe shifted our orientation to be global like that other people did? You know what I'm trying to say? Or is it a case of, what's the thing? What's the thing that's holding us back from being as large scale as, things like Sundance Film Festival and telling our stories on those platforms? Because they're doing it for us without even our buy-in. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So what is it that's killing our expansion?
So very quickly, your issue with not being able to contribute is more economic than creative. When these companies are creating credit card regions, we're always skipped because, understandably, what currency are you going to be swiping in? You can't go tell Netflix, hey, yo, man, my subscription couldn't pay this month because, Dynamite TGS. No. So it's so that's just purely why you wouldn't be able to contribute that much, but people have ways of working around that. I think for us, number one, fundamentally, there is no reward for ideas in this country. We're not a country that typically rewards people with ideas. We are risk averse, naturally. Why we became like that is understandable. So we don't take a chance on things that have not already been proven. So when you say to someone, I need a budget to be able to blow up the RBZ, they're like, like when you say to them, I've got this amazing script, I want to be able to produce it, but I need this kind of talent that will really bring out the story. Actors are not born the same, guy. There's a reason why you know the one you know. There's levels to that barish. A good actor is one who you don't know is acting. Let that sink in. It feels real, right? You need money for those people. So when you now say to someone, yo, I'm trying to, okay, this is obviously crazy because no one has this kind of budget. I'm trying to fly Michael B. Jordan to play, the story of Biggie Tembo, musician from Zim, this, that, and the third. No, guy. When that Hollywood film came out where Denzel came to Zim and he was playing Steve Biko and they were shooting it in Loyal, you had to get Denzel then. You couldn't get Denzel now. You see what I'm saying? So it's like the lack of respect for ideas then makes it hard to find financing. So a lot of filmmakers, creators here have to get financing from NGOs, Scandinavian embassies, European embassies, because they're coming from environments where they understand the power of storytelling in changing narratives. So they will be able to find financing. That's the one side. The flip side is Zimbabweans are too purist from an arts and media side. You're too purist.
Say more about being purist. What do you mean?
It means that you don't want to nudge a little in your creative process to think about the money. I get so many phone calls, right, from people saying, yo, Ngola, I made this. Can you help me find financing for it? And my first question is, sorry, so you made this whole thing and you didn't contemplate what financing you're going to need. How is that possible? Because financing for us is this guy. Why is the lead character in your story not an employee from Nyaradzo? And the opening scene is her mom's funeral where there's a Nyaradzo policy there. Nyaradzo truck on the opening scene, Nyaradzo staff, all this other stuff. Where are you going to go for financing when you write it like that? Tell me, dude. Where you go? Nyaradzo.
Go to Nyaradzo.
Straight up, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why even if you're watching Deadpool, you're going to see either a Coors Light bottle, a Bud Light bottle, or a Coca-Cola bottle. There's a reason. Right? Do you know that in the States, every movie that has the military in it, the military finances?
Really?
Talk about Independence Day, talk about starships, troopers. If the U.S. Army is required to come and blow up Godzilla in New York, they finance because it helps them with recruitment.
So they have a budget, a marketing budget that gets deployed into Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
We recruit telling the story and this compelling idea that we have to die for country or fight for country. Wow.
1000%, right? Because it helps them with their recruitment. Because those cool looking scenes and all this other stuff, love for my country. There's many people who signed up for the military based off of that stuff. So it's a culture that understands how to get the money, right? So we in Zimbabwe, we still want to write our stories so pure, so cool, so nice. And when you're going to an investor, you've spoken to investors, the first thing they're going to say to me is, where's my return? What's in it for me? I don't even have exposure in the minimum. Where's the upside? So one, we don't really reward ideas. So the consequence of that is our great idea makers go where their reward is. If you look at the credits of many of your shows in the South, see how many Zimbabwean names you see in that. It's maddening, right? But they've gone to a place where ideas are rewarded. And then secondly, we don't know how to unlock the money. We don't know how to unlock the money. Quick segue. Do you remember, how well do you know your MCU movies?
MCU, say more.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, go on. Yeah, sure. Go on.
Avengers 2, right?
Yeah, I watched it.
Age of Ultron, right? The Jambanj scene where the Scarlet Witch possesses the Hulk and he just goes bananas and goes berserk. And then he now runs away and whatever. And then they have to send Tony Stark to deploy Vanessa to the Hulkbuster to fight him. Where was that shot?
I'm not sure.
Johannesburg. Why was it shot in Johannesburg?
Why?
Because the DTI, right?
Department of Trade Industry. Sure.
Is right. Partnered with the tourism sector to give a rebate to Disney and Marvel to shoot that scene in South Africa. So they said, look, we know you need diverse locations. We know you want to make this seem like a global story. So come and blow up South Africa, right? You saw it was the South African police running around and this. And in exchange for them coming to shoot tax-free or rather reduced taxes and whatever, there was a demand that the set had to have South Africans on it. They needed to be having a certain level of South African actors in there. They needed to, for the skill sets that were brought in for that section of the film, South African editors, South African playwrights, South African this. The money that came into there is why you're now seeing a lot of South African Netflix shows. You know how to make the money. Harry Potter should be casting a spell out of Victoria Falls or the Chronicle Tower in Masvingo. Why isn't that there?
Or some sort of great Zimbabwe scene where whatever.
Fair.
So we don't know how to deal make in the film industry. We lack the skill of deal making in the film industry.
We lack because we're purists. We want to be able to tell our stories the way we want to. We want to tell the Mbuyane story the way we want to do it. Cool. But you know how you get more money for the Mbuyane story? Understand Black Panther 2 is coming out in 2022. Why have you not petitioned for that own shot? You know what? I was watching Black Panther. I was so mad. Let me tell you the story. I went to go watch it like everybody did. And you know that scene with the waterfall with all the different tribes before Mbaku comes and does his whole parish, right? I'm saying to myself, there's so many South African tribes here. Yeah. They've got
overwhelming,
their names, right? And then Anambaku are from where? They're Nigerian, right? Mm-hmm. And you're saying wakataza with one tribe, you could not get one tribe. You couldn't get one tribe to do that. Dana Gurira, right? General Okoye is Zimbabwe. You're saying you cannot, fam. Yes. In the 80s, when we used to be good at this, in the 80s, the common African language on movies was Shona. You know how every time someone's like, "Are you African?" It's Zulu or Xhosa or something like that, right?
The mainstream.
That's the main thing, right? Yeah. American movies in the 80s. It's the random African people was rapping Shona and Amtiro Fanzi were in Hollywood productions because we knew it back then. Now we don't because You want to make your movie, though you want to make your movie, make it. Make it. Make it. Make it. When Netflix has got $1.3 billion committed to storytelling from Africa, right? They're just so the way you do it is you need to petition your shows, either one that you want to make or one that is already made, to see if it's popular to get onto Netflix. The major Netflix markets in Africa are South Africa and Nigeria. Okay?
Yep.
South Africans are submitting 5 to 7 scripts a week. How many scripts are being submitted by Nigerians a week?
20.
41. 41 a week, Baba. Do you
Batching
want this?
out.
Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? How many do you think are being submitted from them?
I have no idea how many.
0. Nothing. Nothing. One, because you don't have anything to submit. And two, because of that other skill. If you want Netflix to finance your thing, there's gotta be, they have agendas. They have mandates. Write your script to do that. The reason why Narcos, which is one of the most popular
And
stories
it's a
on
fully Spanish show. It's a fully Mexican
What?
show. And the
fully
whole world
Mexican show,
whole world
written
loves
from what perspective?
the perspective of the
American
CIA.
FBI and CIA agents.
Right, right.
That's why they finance that. Because the audience that pays for Netflix feels involved. So write your story about an American dude who's lost in Zimbabwe. That's how you get the money. Then you make Neria 2, or you like the return of Neria. Do that.
You know, you got me thinking, because I think about the power of, like, I look at Nigerian culture. You mentioned they're submitting 41 shows right now.
Fam.
I feel like culturally they're having all the fun right now. From an African export perspective, in terms of storytelling, music, content, you look at Burna Boy. I would want to say we don't have our own artists, right? But there's just so much product that Nigerians are putting out into the market, right? I couldn't help but feel jealous. I said, man, like, what product are we? Not to say that we're incapable of doing it, but I think it speaks to that idea to say there's such a deficiency in the amount of output we're doing. And I don't know if it's a case of a lack of will. Maybe it might be a lack of will, but I think it's a lack of know-how, Mangwe. I think.
That is one. And two, do you know that what happened in Nigeria, we did in Zim way before Nigeria, but they just went a step further. Everybody recognizes that at the time, that mandate of 100% local content was like, oh my God. But you would not have had your job praises, your XQs, and whatever. Nigerian government did the same thing, but then took it a step further. And they actually invested in artists going to the UK and then being able to tap into the Nigerian market. The second biggest contingent of Nigerians outside of Nigeria is in the UK.
Yes.
Go and blow up there. Then when the Nigerians who were there took over and enjoyed the culture, it then became part of the UK scene. And obviously, people who understand money flock to money. So that's when you see Beyonce and your Drake's now saying, oh, right, it's marriage. And they're going to do that, right? We are starting to do that. XQ, Ja Praiser, all those dudes go on tour. What does that mean? They go play for Zimbos in the diaspora. So he's in Australia, he's in the UK, he's in the States, and we all flock there. Now the next thing is some brilliant dude that side now needs to be able to open more collaborations for them. We've already got Pip, right? And we've already got T-Collar, right? We've already got those dudes who are already showing, but when they now have the authority and the position to now start trying to blow up the Zimbabwean style in that joint, people will naturally flock to it. So we're there. And music, we're there. We're moving slowly, zero, but we're there. Film, zero. But the same thing needs to happen.
It makes me kind of think about now what Zora was trying to do whilst he was alive. Guy went to St. John's, came back, went to New York City as well, came back to kind of do open up platforms such as the show he was doing, at least to try and provide a way in which those stories could be told, right? What then leads me to, like, what was that experience like for you in terms of because that was your first almost full-time experience going into like broadcasting, behind
Never been in
the
broadcasting full time.
okay.
I've never been in broadcasting full time.
That was the first time. That was the first time.
Yeah, but that was the first time. Yeah, it was it was a lot of fun. And it was never nervous because I feel like I grew up in a household where if you stand for truth, the truth will protect you. Not just set you free, but it will protect you. So I always used to get asked, like, are you scared to say some of the stuff that you do? And I still get asked that because of the people who I have interface with on a broadcast perspective. No,
Yes.
I don't, because I don't rely on gossip and controversy, which is what a lot of Zimbabweans enjoy. I don't rely on salaciousness and all this other stuff, sensationalizing stuff. I just speak my truth and the truth that deserves to be heard. For people who would want to say, Honorable Minister Murutara Gwafa, I will say that for you, right? So long as he is speaking Gwafa. So POV was that first experience where you have that platform to finally say, and it was almost cheating because a lot of my talking points were things that I would hear at church, things that I would hear at the gym, things that I would hear every Zimbabwean's just saying, Zimbabweans are always invested in solutions for their own problems. They have a good day, they have a good day, they have a good day, they have a good day. This is Mangwe.
Just taking notes, like that's a good point, right?
You get on camera, you start rapping it. I'm funny. You're like, that was Mbiageti at Pathfinders, my fam. That's what she said, rock. And this was now like opening my eyes to being able to say, right, what has not been there is that the people have not been able to just have a place where they can say, thank you, someone said it. So that's what then became my role at POV, my self entitled role. And when I used to lead my team, because I had your camera works and all this other stuff, but then I had one researcher and I had one co-writer. I needed a co-writer by like episode 13 because actually I had to span. So I used to write my own stuff, and then I brought in a co-writer and a researcher, and we had a team that was there. And I always used to say, guys, we are the pulse of Zimbabwe, which means when something happens, how do Zimbabweans feel? That's what we say. Our job shouldn't be hard. We just literally say what people need to be heard. So when our Reserve Bank governor got given another 5 years, that episode was a no-brainer. How? Why? How? Is this not performance based? When my very first episode, it was like God sent because the timing of it really set the tone for people's expectations of what kind of guy is Mangwe, because it was 2018, we had the debacle in the streets, so on and so forth, military involvement, this, that, and the third, and it was just like, no one's going to say that this was Gwalindo. Here comes Ngui, first episode, this is Gwalindo. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And peace. And so this is a big thank you I owe Zororo, because I used to get nervous. Don't get me wrong. I used to get really scared. Like, oh my God, did I really just say that? Yo, let's edit this, bro. Like, like seriously, you know what's happening. But then he'd always be like, but did you lie? And I'm like, no, I didn't. So what's your problem? You're cool. Let's keep it going, right? And then it started to get fun and weird at the same time when you'd be in a meeting for totally different reasons. So I had this one presentation with this one government agency, and I was doing this in my other line of work as a marketing person. And I'm showing them of how they can, improve their visibility, this. And the whole time, so this is a presentation to the board. And the whole time the chairman is like this.
On his phone. Right.
And he's listening, then he scratches down. And I'm just thinking, okay. And I'm going through this whole ass presentation, right? And then the end of it, it's like, Kuda, you need to learn to say nice things. I'm like, huh?
Wow.
what do you mean? No, you need to learn to say nice things. You don't say nice things. I'm like, okay.
Oh, they've
Yo,
seen the
I'm
show.
actually
They've
not,
definitely seen the
yeah.
show.
So I'm like, I'm not here in that capacity, but I'm here to do something else. Maybe we can talk about that later. But then already, that meeting was sawawa because
Yeah,
Kuda, you don't say nice things.
right.
And then another day, you get a message from, family who are in parliament, and they say your episode was actually played before parliamentary hearing because people
Really?
in parliament wanted to understand what do Zimbabweans think. So we watched your whole episode. Your
Wow.
little cousin in Australia says to you, "Hey, our Cyclone Idai had just happened. I was speaking about it and this, that, and the third." And my cousin in Australia was like, my teacher played your
The
video,
episode. What, in
your
Australia?
episode on Cyclone Idai in our class in Australia to teach
Right.
people about how different countries handle crisis." And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? like, what is happening? What is happening, right? And then like you go to Queen of Hearts, you sit down. Hey, yo, Ngui, what's up, fam? Hey, how's it going? Yo, man, love the episode.
Right.
I'll be walking in town. Some person rolls down the video. We love you, could I love your episode? And it was like people are
Really?
watching.
Wow.
Who? No, wait, hang on, hang on. Who was watching? It's you, Dumi. You internet dwellers, you YouTube, Netflix, Hulu open on the same browser type peeps. It was big. When I was looking at my statistics, UK, Australia, Washington, Baltimore, this. Even when I
Right.
used to go live, so what I used to do is I used to do the episode on a Sunday, it would come out on a Monday, and then I'll go live on a Wednesday to discuss with fans what the episode was. Who's tuning in? UK, Baltimore, Maryland, this, Australia, Taiwan, Taipei, China, Guangzhou, Zimbos living in those different places,
But
right?
no one in, not the
No
bulk of
one
people.
in here.
Right.
No one in here. And
Right.
then when POV then wanted to transition to now start doing specials like interviews and stuff like that. So I did the Fortune Chassis, and I did
You do that?
ET.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did ET. That's the one you like because of
Actually,
that
that's my favorite.
that
My
tuck
favorite
shot.
episode.
Where's that
It's
tuck shot
my
from?
favorite. Chendambuya.
Right.
My favorite episode. Oh my god.
Right, there you go, right? You
I
can't
watched
even
it.
talk in a talk
I
show.
watched it before today just to like to get my mind right. I said, "Oh, this is gold, the golden interview." But
Right?
yeah, so
Over the talk show. And so that, and then you go live, and then you're inviting different people. Love everyone who's ever given me time. Henry Mnangatires, Kudamsa Siwa, Brett Mouvet, different lawyers here and there. And one thing was becoming apparent was that I was locking myself in an echo chamber. This 1%, 2%, 5% echo chamber. Because I would go to visit my relatives and they don't even know what I do. God help you as an independent broadcaster in politics to try and get anyone who is sitting in a position of influence to come onto your show. I want to see you do it. I wrote so many letters to Mutuli, to this MP, to this minister, to this, because everyone would be like, "Yeah, Kuda, you need to get Mutuli. You need to ask him these questions." Hey, I'm like, "Fam, I'm trying, guy, I'm trying." No one came. And because, certain politicians in this country who would not be typically given an audience, who now have this guy who's saying, "Yo, I'm trying to produce this episode. Are you happy?" Yes, I'm happy. And they're not even there to engage with what you want to ask. They're there because they now have a camera that they can now use, a platform. Exactly, they now have a platform. So I said to myself, "Yeah, guys, this doesn't work." I now was now hungry. I wanted, like, the voices that your diasporan Zimbabweans hate. Those unapologetic "Inindo da Zimbabwe. Isusu dosha tueta muno I was now hungry for that voice. I wanted to speak to it because I'm like, I'm keep on putting myself in this place where I'm just getting this one-dimensional point of view. Where
Yes.
the hell is the rest of the this? I'm not in Zimbabwe, and I always used to say to people, I don't live in Zim.
Hmm.
I'm in Zimbabwe, but I don't live in Zimbabwe because all my conversations are have nothing to do with this place. So I was like, nah, fam, how am I going to get that? And then this opportunity to face the nation, I didn't even know about it because I don't watch ZBC, right?
Hmm.
The opportunity came up, and they were looking for a new host, and apparently the show was big because Oscar Pambuka and all these other people used to host it, and apparently it was big. So it was a big thing in my head. I was just like, ain't nobody watch this, fam. Boy, was I wrong.
Big.
People watch ZBC, dude. Just not my people, but people
Right.
watch ZBC. And I tell you, Dumi, the biggest challenge for me was taking off this northern suburb hat, putting it aside, and now having to speak for Zimbabweans, not Zimbos, for Zimbabweans.
Right.
There's a difference, right? And so the things that you think people want to ask, people want to know, ndakutukwa nichivanhu mdara hakuna kubvunza makwesheni akapfusa man hey chichi and I'm just like oh snap
Wow.
because before those were the things where people were like kuda, now it
Yes.
was Dara, urutambisira nguva.
Nonsense.
And now
Nonsense.
you go to now you go to Queen of Hearts and it's just like, fam, where you at, bruh? Ah,
Where's
dog,
your
you dropped the
show?
ball.
You're on
Where's
on
your
you're on
show? And
TV.
I'm like, I actually never stopped, guys. Like, I've actually been doing this. You know, I've been on Face the Nation for nearly 2 years, right? No one watches it. No one who is thinking watches it. But then now the difference is I go to Mbare to pick up my pranga. Ah, Mutara! Eh, Mutara churungu chulos paka Mutara! And I'm just like, oh snap, demographic. My grandmother got a TV in Buhera and she makes everyone kumusha Tuesday 6:30 mzukuru wangu ari patifu wemuone,
We have to
right?
watch.
And
We
it's
have to
like
watch.
you
We have to
have
watch.
to watch mzukuru wangu mwanangu what and so the audience has shifted, which means that my mind now needs to shift to be able to represent. So I'll give you one of like the experiences where I'm just like, oh my god, we need to do better. We
Mm.
had the deputy minister of youth
Mm.
come on. Now we have one big issue at government level with youth, and that is perception. So in the empowerment bank right now, currently can only has the capacity to give youth entrepreneurs about 150 US dollars as a loan. But what you have to do to get that 150, guy, you'd think they're giving you
Jump.
150,000.
Right?
It's madness, right? It's nonsense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when there was a government level COVID relief fund that was created to help young businessmen who suffered from the effects of COVID, and it was like 50 US bucks, and I'm just like, fam, what is this? You know, we're like, what is this? Like you're saying relief.
Which I say,
But you can't even get headache relief with 50 bucks,
right.
man. What do you say? And then the response I received, not from the deputy minister, but from the head of the youth Chakuti, was we provided a fund at the level of contribution that young Zimbabweans make. And I was like, so wait, so you're saying our level of contribution requires a $50 US dollar bailout?
Mm.
What do you think of us as young people? Like, I think of all the names who I have in my phone right now of young people who are doing things,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Some who are going to be on this show, and I'm like, if you gave that on 50 bucks,
It's a
would that
slap.
is it?
It's a slap
Can't
in
even
the
put
face.
fuel in his whip,
It's a slap in
you
the
know?
face.
It's not enough. Like, what are you saying? And then you realize, like, that's just the perception that's there. And then, so you're like, right, now I'm on a mission to change this perception.
Mm.
Because you guys need to respect us, man. We're contributors.
Mm.
Deputy Minister of now I'm coming back full circle. Deputy Minister of Youth comes on, and the main issue. So how it comes together is we find out who we're going to interview because we have to book them. And then we analyze what issues are surrounding their portfolio, and then we work as a team. I've got one producer and a couple other people who work together to come up with the questions and this, that, and the third, and then the person comes on. So when we're now going through the questions and I'm now listening to what people are thinking, it's like, right, so my youth are going to my power has kuvura. Wait, are you
That's the
saying
most good
people's concern right now in Zimbabwe is good? My power and kuvura.
about
Yeah,
that.
vari kukomplaina kuti hey havachai kwanisa kuenda kumashow hey chichichichi. So one of the things that we do is we do vox pop. So we go into the town and you're like, dai madhara vatibatsiro vativhuriro mabhawa unoziva kuti nyaya yekuti na3 makuseni musi wefriday unenge uri padenga haisi kushanda mudhara dai mavhu. And I'm just like,
It's a different conversation. It's a different
just like, what? I'm just so it's about breaking my own biases, right? Into saying what is important to a young person in Zimbabwe right now. Mabawa is important. And bringing yourself to be humble enough to then be in front of the minister, standing for your demographic and saying, Dara Mabawa akavurere. In your heart, you're like, I really don't want to ask this because I'm like, really? I don't care, fam. Like, it's COVID. Stay home.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, my peeps want this to be answered. Mabawa arguvurari mdara. It's crazy. And then another thing was obviously coming from the independent world, coming from, like I said, the different parts that we've understood as Zimbos. You get onto ZBC and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I know I can't ask certain things. I know I can't do certain things.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Why am I even here?
Yeah, what I can do, say and
Yeah,
say.
right. Can I even ask certain questions? There's a couple key questions which I've asked on the show, which have really taught me that you just have to know how to ask the tough question, right? I had a very I can't say the minister's name because obviously it's confidential, right?
Sure.
But I had a very eye-opening conversation with him, and I said to him, fam, why don't you like coming onto the show and talking to peeps? And he was like, dude, I don't like people who want to make TV out of me. Like, this job is hard enough already. I don't need to put a spotlight on myself where now, you guys are looking for clips and highlights and all this other stuff. And I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. What these
Tough
dudes, tough enough. So it's like, I don't mind being asked tough questions about the stuff, but don't come at me and I was just like,
Fair.
that's a very valid point. So I had the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs on, and one of the big strategies that's there for Zim going towards Vision 2030, all that, is re-engagement with the US and the UK. And I asked him and I said to him, look, these guys are very clear about what they want in terms of a relationship with us, and human rights violations is a big thing that they always tout and say, you don't know how to get it right. And, when I asked him that question, a part of me just escaped and stood here. And I was
like, I'm about to die.
Sam, what did you just say that? And but I was like, no, but I've got to ask him this, right? And but you hear how I said it. It's a civil diplomatic way of asking. Then his answer was, yeah, no, but you know what? Kuda, it's always in Zimbabwe, it's unfortunate that there's always people who try and create fake stories and this out of these issues, and they're trying to get press and TV out of it. And I'm like, but do you think that it's fair that certain people who perceive to themselves that they have had genuine issues with their human rights being violated, now there's an official government position that has rubbished that as a fake, false story? Do you think that's fair? Right? There's still respect in the way I asked it. And I didn't say what you're saying is guava, but I said, but do you think it's fair that what your position, which is real to you, to someone else who's actually saying this is real to me, do you think it's fair that your position, being the official one, can take the position of, yeah, you're full of nonsense? Is that fair? Right? It's been a massive learning curve, learning how to ask things like that, toning down my own anger and vitriol towards these peeps, and just wanting to just be like, but you're whack, I'm going in, and having to fight those things in myself that just really wanted to say that, and just learning how to know that you're talking to a human, right? And also that a human with the answers that you're looking for, and how do you get those answers out there? And then the other thing you learn is that some of them are very good at have media training and can answer questions very well, and others, not so much. It's not that they're not good at what they're doing; they just hate talking about it, right? And
Yeah.
but what I will say is that you then learn very quickly some of the challenges. One of them is the communications challenge. There's very poor communication over things that are happening. And secondly, um, when you're talking to politicians, you learn to pick up the politicking, and you learn to pick up the stuff, and you have an hour with this person, and we book ministers in 3 month cycles. So you have an hour, so you also have to learn how to like drop drop it like,
In essential.
that I did, I thought that was nonsense. But I've got 10 minutes left, so let's keep it moving. Okay, let's keep it going. And then what you also then the last thing is realizing that we also as a network just are just terrible at showing different demographics, the stuff that we do. Like the show purely exists on ZBC. It's put online on Facebook, but it's part of a 3 hour massive dump where you have to go through some whack show and then another set of adverts, and then you find it, and then there's news. So it's like it's not even put on the internet properly. Although when you're interviewing and you're going through the Facebook comments at the same time, peeps are watching and asking real questions, and you're saying, oh, there's people who really are watching and really want to have their things answered. We need to do a lot more work in expanding the reach of the show, so that people actually understand that, listen, when we're having dialogue with these peeps, I don't pay attention to people who don't watch the show, who just make the assumption, like I used to, that you can't ask real questions and have real conversations. I don't even pay attention, because people who watch the show know that we ask tough questions to these peeps. Yes, there's a lot of dancing. I'm not the one who's supposed to come up with the answers. My role is to come up with the questions. And so we do ask the tough questions, but we do need to do a better job of just
Okay. I
showing
have
peeps.
4 parting questions. 4.
Cool.
The first is, do you feel like this show and this platform or this space is like your purpose? Does it feel purposeful?
Not yet, but it's a building block to it. I definitely have to go back into the independent space, but I need to do it right. And a big part of it is when I left, there was a certain expectations and perception of me. I know for a fact that when I come back with the two perspectives that I now have, I'm not going to sound the same. But what I'm now finding is my role is, so I actually want to do a show called Zimbabwe Demystified, which acts as a two-pronged things, one for investors and one for Zimbabweans themselves, where it's like, the things that you hear are happening. This is what it actually looks like. So there is going to be good and bad in it. Like when we're always hearing that we're in a surplus, the hell does that mean? Right? Or when we hear that there's this project, this project, what does that mean? And so my purpose, I feel, coming out of this would be to do something like that, which is to help Zimbabweans become okay with liking their country. Loving,
Got
not
you.
liking. Let's start with like.
Got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, that then touched on my second question, which was my question was going to be, what was your intention with this show? And I think, would that be part of it, to say the intention is to help Zimbabweans feel comfortable with liking their country? Because
Yeah.
right now
Uh,
that's the thing.
it's tough, and also feeling comfortable with asking questions and questioning authority, and showing how it can be done. Respectful always, but necessary when it's necessary. These are our lives.
Yes.
So don't be fooled by the Twitterati, which tries to be rude and violent and just outright just unacceptable because you're hiding behind Twitter fingers.
Yeah.
Put your face there first of all,
Crazy.
right? And then be respectful, because at the end of the day, we're all humans.
All
So
humans.
also just trying to show people that you can demand answers. Just do it right.
Okay. Okay. Third question. You spoke on something which is like the most, I think we touched on this earlier this week, which is the most pertinent, a very pertinent matter, I think, for especially the person in my seat right now, which is to say there can be a danger in creating this strange diasporan Zimbo echo chamber, which can be a very dangerous thing, where it can, if the voice is not balanced to represent the full spectrum of Zimbabwean society, it can actually then serve to alienate as opposed to empower, right? So my question then becomes, what advice would you have for me? Do you know what I'm saying? Like in a particular seat, because this is a Zimbabwean who wants to be impactful and do something good for his country, but then two, you have, it's hard to fly on a flight, go to Chitungwiza and then like conduct. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, what advice can a person sitting in this seat would you have for me? So that I can be impactful and not existing in a vacuum. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
What advice would you give for me, having traversed these streets?
Right. These streets. First thing is very simple. Get out the echo chamber. And if you, like you said, you have the challenge of not being able to fly in and out and so on and so forth. But where it starts is change the people who you ask questions about Zimbabwe, and hear what your friends will talk about versus other people who in your friend circle you talk for. They're maids and gardeners who are struggling. Talk to them.
Ask them.
Their concerns are not actually what you assume. So take away the assumptions for yourself. And so that's the first thing. Get out the chambers and take out the assumptions for yourself. And then the second thing is challenge everything you think you know about Zim. Challenge everything you think you know about Zim. From who has the money, how do you make money, what makes money, who makes the policies, who does whatever it is you question about your country. Question yourself about your understanding of it, because you'll find that if your understanding comes from the echo chamber, that's what contributes to you not believing in your place. There's two peeps in Zim. There's people who live in a realm of impossibility, and there's those who live in a realm of possibility. When you ask the person in the realm of impossibility, how's life? How's Zimbabwe? I squeeze, I'm that, I hear this, that. People who are living in a realm of possibility, Zim is so dope, fam. They are sheets in this country, bro. Hey, what is the difference? They are all in the same country. What is the difference? This person has chosen to challenge their biases, and they will laugh. But success, I remember Queen of Hearts sipping mojitos. Muchiseka kuti murumwa mamojito. Muchiseka. Banenji ndlamari nini mchimwa mamojito. That's what it is. So
I'll take it. Nah, fair. And then lastly, we talk about this idea of shifting a narrative, right? Transitioning something from the singular to the multifaceted. What does that mean for you in the Zimbabwean context? We spoke about, we want Zimbabweans to want to love their country more. Specifically for you, what does that look like, if I can call it that? What does shifting the narrative look like for you?
That everybody is invested in everyone else doing better. I'll give you two small examples very quickly. Not examples. One is an example, another one is a point. First example is, if you want to see what Zimbabweans are like presently, go to an uncontrolled intersection and just watch. Everyone wants to get home first. But in doing that, you then cause the roadblock. So long as you're not invested in someone else's happiness and saying, "Kuti, no, you know what? Let's everyone have fun." We're not going to change. So if I get a tender for 100 million, let's just say, and my first plan is, how am I going to get this whole 100? Not, I would love to have the whole 100, but realistically, if this is actually going to work, Dumi needs 10. Tinay needs 20. Stacy needs 40.
Balance it
Then
out.
I can think chi, whatever, and you are invested in other people seeing it grow. And then the second thing is a point. And I want to hear what you think about this statement. So long, now I'm speaking to you as a privileged person. So long as your dream or your picture of success in Zimbabwe has a maid and a gardener in it, then that means that your dream still requires someone else to be mediocre. If that is still your dream, I'll start to right. No foot. I'll start to apple. You're
Because
sitting
that
there with your missus and you're saying, right, so we're gonna have this, then we're gonna have two dames, then we're gonna have, yeah. Not a person who has a house cleaning service, not a person who has a gardening business where they have several clients in the Borough area. We're still going to need those services. But if they are coming from a perspective of someone who doesn't have an education, doesn't have choices, they're going to have to actually become a domestic worker. If your dream still has someone with that profile, you're part of the problem. Part of the
fully, I
problem.
know people talk, people, there's this Zimbabwean dream, I like to call it, the good old days, as they would say.
Yeah.
Back in the day,
Nostalgia.
nostalgia. Good old days for who? Good old days for who? Do you know what I mean? Like good old days for who? Would we say, oh, back then we could do this, and for you, yes, right? But you talk about you had two gardeners, you had a help, and look, this is my life. I'm not talking about like a case of,
Standard.
but
Standard.
but that is not a life that is based upon the equity of of the full equity of others in your society. And if you are saying that you want to see Zimbabwe go back to what it was, is that a Zimbabwe that is fully inclusive of everyone's empowerment? There's an issue there. I think for me, it's a very challenging question, and it's very accurate. And yeah, I think for me, like the Zimbabwean dream should be one that is fully inclusive, not one that is based upon social hierarchy, if you will. But there's a lot of unlearning that I would have to do for sure.
Oh, standard.
Like I can't. Oh, people say, yeah, you say that, but X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. Like, yes, there'll be definitely unlearning that I'd have to do. You know what I mean? But that's fully fair, and I fully resonate to that. It's challenging, but I think for me it was good to have this conversation because I thought about, do I talk to Kuda about his life trajectory? I'm like, no, Kuda's very well versed to talk about. He spends his life talking about issues on the ground, and he has live examples about real things happen. Or like you have closer exposure than I otherwise would have, right? So I thought it was good that we have this conversation. I love the work that you're doing, of course, and or at least the space that you occupy right now. And is there any way in which we can help you? Is there any way in which we can help you?
Yeah, watch the show. I will help you be able to do that, right?
Right.
But that's all I need. Watch the show and start to hear what these people are saying, right? Start to hear what these people are saying, and then connect yourself to the solutions. I'll say just two things. So truly at the beginning of the year, rolled out NDS 1 and 2, which is a component of Vision 2030. So you have TSP, which is about taking away the Zim dollar, and then NDS 1 is trying to get us a little bit closer to that middle income household, status by 2025, and then 25 to 2030 is now finishing the story. In this, there's a couple of goals that are there. One is to develop 700,000 jobs by 2025. Another one is to build 220,000 houses and flats by 2025. you can read that number and say, they'll never do it. Or
But
you can start a construction company or a carpentry business, because all those cabins need doors, they need windows, they need this, and they are built. So I was actually talking to the Minister of National Housing 2 weeks ago. They have now, right now, their drive is to invest in technology that can build houses faster and not with bricks. They have now settled on two companies. They're about to then close, and the technology that those companies are bringing in can build 100 houses in 30 days.
it's
Okay?
3D printing, right? Is that the 3D
Yes,
printing? Right?
precisely, right? And that is happening as it goes. And you can, sit back and say, or make a plan. That's it. So, how do you want to help me? Watch the show and be inspired to make plans. That's what's up.
Good. Appreciate it,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much, fam. And I love what you're doing, and I wish you more life, more success, because what you are actually doing is, like I said earlier, do the work. You figured out what your contribution could possibly be, and you're doing it. And look at how much you need to invest. You're in your house, you've got time, and you've got technology, and you're making it happen, fam. That is all it takes. Do the graft. Well played, fam. Well played.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate
No
it.
worries.